Acemagic, also known as AceMagician, is a very popular manufacturer of mini PCs, and right now they're selling PCs full of spyware designed to steal your passwords and other sensitive data. See, this issue was first brought up originally by the NetGuy reviews a few months back, and AceMagician at the time said this was a one-off event and that all new systems would be safe to order. So when Acemagic reached out to me asking to do a sponsored video to go ahead and showcase one of their brand new mini PCs, I was a little cautious, especially because I started doing some digging into exactly what had happened. So when I received the mini PC that the company sent out as part of the partnership, I wanted to do my own due diligence. So I scanned the system and I found absolutely no signs of any kind of malware or spyware that was previously reported. So we can proceed now with the sponsored video, right? Not exactly, because that's not good enough for me. So I went out and bought 6 additional units from Acemagic over on Amazon. And I'm fully committed to making sure whenever I endorse a product that it's coming from not only a good brand, but it's also a good product. So to do this, I took all these systems, hooked them up, and made sure that we were putting them in an offline environment to make sure that they weren't going to touch my network during the detailed testing. And as I started to fire these systems up, I found the first kind of odd sign with these systems. The initial setup doesn't require you to connect the system to the network, nor does it actually require you to add a Microsoft account, which is a traditional requirement that you no longer can really bypass in Windows 11, unless you create a very specific installation for offline environments. Honestly, this was a little concerning. To see their choice to decide to do a setup with a custom installation of Windows that's kind of different from all the other traditional ones was a little odd, because you don't really see any other kinds of brands doing that right now. And it's often a way that you can add additional customization, which is why people do it, which in turn could be malicious, which we'll see shortly. Once I got into these mini PCs to actually start testing them, I set forth a few tasks. First, I wanted to go ahead and see if there was any kind of odd software pre-installed, and then I decided to run 2 different virus scans and malware scans to go ahead and look at any kind of concerning programs or kind of data that's on these systems, which is exactly what I did. But right after getting into the few of the systems, I noticed that there was something obvious right away, because the 3 systems I have here in the middle all had Chrome pre-installed, which honestly isn't something that should be too concerning, but I'll get back to that in just a moment. As I started all my testing, I wanted to make sure that all these systems weren't connected to any kind of network, not even my guest network, just for security purposes. And after running a detailed scan across all 7 machines, I found that the systems sent to me, along with the 2 N1 units, actually were perfectly fine. But these 4 systems in the middle all had some kind of form of spyware that was often listed in the recovery section of the Windows install. And the particular program that was labeled on all these systems was called endev.exe. And this is incredibly concerning, because this is exactly what I saw the NetGuy talk about a few months back. And it's something that was supposed to already be addressed. And when you upload this file to any popular virus scanning tools, it almost always comes back as being part of the redline family of trojans, which typically is associated with stealing information and using software tools designed to grab files, browser data, and even other things like your cryptocurrency wallets, and send them back to whoever created the virus. This is incredibly scary, right? So I went ahead and reached out to my contact at Acemagic, and they sent over a response that really just seemed like a copy and paste statement from their initial incident. And they seemed to kind of blame that this was actually done as a way to make the user experience easier in some way. Their software developers basically had adjusted some aspects of Windows during the installation process, including adding some additional software without obtaining some kind of digital signature, which this is why you were kind of getting these flags on these different systems, which to me kind of just seems a little odd. This has resulted in basically what they're claiming a bunch of false positives showing up in different malware scanning tools. Apparently this issue is only supposed to affect PCs before November 18th, 2019, but I don't think that's true at all, because this PC right here couldn't have been manufactured anytime before 2021, because it has a 5700U, which didn't even exist in 2019. Additionally, they sent over an updated statement showing that in March, apparently they were supposed to fix the endev.exe file, showing that it was no longer an issue in Windows Defender. Basically, they did this through submitting it through the Microsoft Security Intelligence tool, which is great to hear. But how do we know this is the same exe file that was submitted as the same one that's installed on these mini PCs? Honestly, I don't think we do, and that's probably why it's still getting flagged by a lot of other malware scans. Honestly, if you ask me, I probably wouldn't trust it, and that's kind of where I'm a little skeptical here. And even if this part is resolved, that doesn't stop my other concerns. As Chrome was pre-installed, this was actually a lot more serious of an issue than what you may think, because this isn't a normal install of Chrome, rather a modified version with things like the search not being Google, rather being searched with something called navwithus, which is a known browser hijacker that does the same spying tactics that redline trojans do, but through the browser, leaving your traffic exposed and any credential that you put in it completely vulnerable. Plus, that's not even the only concern with Chrome, as I noticed that they changed the home page to using upsearches, which is another browser hijacker, rather than using the Google's new tab page, which may lead certain customers to believe that they caught one area, but in reality their browsing data is actually still exposed. Another concern I have with Acemagic came as a result during this investigation, as I found that this particular unit, the AMR5, actually didn't even come with an activated version of Windows running on it. Come on now, this is really getting ridiculous, and this is likely a result of manufacturers of these cheap mini PCs actually buying gray market Windows keys. And these aren't always fully legitimate and sometimes get pulled, resulting in these types of issues. And oh yeah, have you ever heard of a company using rubber bands to actually hold a heatsink in place? Well, I found that a couple of these models actually had heat sinks on their SSDs being attached not with any kind of proper mounting, but rather a rubber band sitting around them. I've never seen this, and it just kind of sounds absolutely ridiculous. This honestly just sent me over the edge with the brand, and I brought all this up to the PR rep that I have, and the funny thing is when I asked what I should do, their response was basically to reinstall Windows with a clean installation media. But the way they actually recommended me to create the installation media was actually really weird, as instead of pointing me to the Windows creation tool, which I normally would recommend anybody to do, they sent me to a Google Drive link, which didn't even make sense, and I definitely won't be opening on my own network just for security reasons. So what's the solution here? Well, if you have one of these systems and you can't return it for whatever reason, my recommendation is to do a clean install of Windows. And make sure you create that Windows installation on a separate PC with the actual tool from Microsoft's website. And I wouldn't trust anything that Acemagic is saying here, and I definitely wouldn't recommend doing also a system reset, because that's just going to keep a lot of the files that are still in the recovery partition, which is where a majority of these issues were found. And Acemagic did mention that if you do have one of these systems that was affected, they will do a full refund for the amount of the system as well as shipping if it was produced between September and November of 18th last year. But that doesn't do any good for any of the machines that I have here, at least that I believe, as it doesn't appear that they were manufactured then. And if you want to take advantage of their product retention policy, where you keep your system, they'll give you 25% back on your purchase. But that doesn't do you any good if you bought the system through Amazon, because that's kind of where I bought mine, and I think a lot of these are actually sold because you actually have to purchase it on their site to actually get that 25% back. So moving forward, AceMagician is completely off my list of companies that I ever will work with, at least for sponsored projects. Maybe I'll revisit them at a later time, but for now, they have a lot to sort out before I'll ever consider it. And here's what I'd like to see done. The recall needs to be way more extended than kind of what they've done so far, as every customer affected needs to be notified of the issue at hand. And Acemagic should do anything that they can to ensure that the individuals that were affected get whatever kind of monitoring they need to go ahead and protect their vital information that could have been leaked. One of the easiest ways to do this, at the bare minimum, is to provide some kind of free credit monitoring tool to those who purchased any kind of Acemagic system in the past. If this isn't addressed to the scale that it likely needs to be done, I'm honestly calling on someone like Amazon to issue not only refunds, but also notify the customers who bought these products that they could have been affected by this data leak. Because I believe that's the primary outlet that a lot of these systems are sold. With this said, I can't recommend any Acemagic system, even the systems that were healthy, because I can't trust anything that they're saying at this point, and I just want to let you guys know I'm committed to testing every sponsored product that comes into my shop with a full evaluation before any kind of video goes out. That's why I spent nearly $2,000 making this video, because I want to make sure that any product that I ever endorse is actually worth endorsing. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took quite a bit of time and resources to put this together. So if you did like it, make sure you go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.